You look familiar. Right, Mary?
No.
Mommy cries with your picture every night.
Have you seen my daughters? 2 little mixed-race kids. One in navy blue and the other jeans.
Yes, I saw them over here. They followed a tall Asian man.
Mary! Martha!
She was losing her mind. Mary. Martha. Jennifer's voice cut through the noise of the mall like a blade. She spun around, eyes scanning every corner, the food court, the escalator, the cluster of shoppers near the shoe display. Nothing. Her heart was slamming against her ribs now. 2 9-year-olds. Her 9-year-olds. Gone. She grabbed a stranger's arm. "Excuse me, 2 little girls about this tall?" She raised her hand to chest height, one in a yellow headband, one in red. "Did you see them?" The woman shook her head apologetically and kept walking. Jennifer's breath was getting shallow. She had told them. She had specifically told them to hold the bag and wait by the shoe rack while she stepped 2 feet away to check the size of a sandal. 2 feet. She was gone for less than 3 minutes. She found the security guard near the entrance, a heavy-set man with a bored expression that immediately shifted when he saw the look on her face. 2 little girls, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Biracial. Pretty eyes. 1 yellow headband, 1 red. Did they come past here? The guard nodded slowly. Yeah. Maybe 10-15 minutes ago. They were following someone. A man. He paused. Tall guy. Sharp dresser. Korean, I think. Jennifer's blood ran cold. She moved. She didn't walk. She pushed through the crowd with her bag swinging at her side, past the perfume counters and the gleaming displays of jewelry, past a group of teenagers taking photos and a child throwing a tantrum near the candy kiosk. Her eyes were scanning. Then she saw them. 2 little girls standing perfectly still in front of a watch display, their tiny faces tilted upward like they were studying the sun. And beside them, a man. Tall. Broad-shouldered. A charcoal suit that looked like it cost more than Jennifer's monthly rent. His back was to her. He was crouched slightly, speaking to them with a calm, measured patience that made something in Jennifer's chest clench without warning. She slowed. Her feet stopped. Because something about the angle of his neck, the set of his shoulders, the way he tilted his head when he listened, it hit her somewhere ancient. Somewhere she had buried so deep she'd almost convinced herself it wasn't real. She knew that posture. She knew that man. Then Martha said something. Jennifer couldn't hear what, and the man laughed quietly and he straightened up and he turned around. And Jennifer stopped breathing. 10 years older. Sharper jaw. Something harder in his eyes that hadn't been there before. But still him. Unmistakably, devastatingly him. Eun Woo-hyun looked across the mall and found her face. Jennifer. Her name in his voice after 10 years was the strangest thing she had ever heard. Like a song she tried to forget and couldn't. Like something being pulled out of the ground. She didn't move. Mummy? Martha spotted her first and waved enthusiastically. Mummy, we found someone. Mary, the quieter one, simply watched her mother's face with those sharp, knowing eyes and said nothing. Jennifer crossed the distance between them. She focused entirely on her daughters, crouching to their level, gripping their hands with slightly more force than necessary. I told you to stay by my side. Her voice was impressively calm considering the fact that her entire world had just tilted sideways. Do you understand how scared I was? Do you? But Mummy, Martha started. Not now. Jennifer stood. She did not look at him. She could not look at him. She pulled both girls with her and started walking. Do what you know best. His voice followed her, like it was meant only for her. Run away when it's inconvenient. She stopped. 1 second. 2. Then she kept walking. If you are watching this right now and you love a story that hits you right in the chest, welcome to Afrique Storified. I'm so glad you're here. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because we drop stories that will make you feel things. Now, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We want to hear from you. She didn't stop until she reached the parking lot, until the cool air outside hit her face and the noise of the mall fell away and it was just her and her girls and the weight of the last 10 years pressing down on her chest. She buckled them in. She sat in the driver's seat. She exhaled, a long, shaking exhale that she'd been holding since the moment she heard his voice. Then she picked up her phone. She opened her messages and typed 3 words to her cousin. "He's here." She stared at it for a moment, then hit send. Martha leaned forward from the back seat. "Mummy, that man said he knew you." "He was mistaken. He said you used to teach him." "Martha." "He also said." "Martha." Jennifer's voice was firm now, final. The kind of voice that even Martha, who had an opinion about everything, knew better than to test. Silence. Mary, in the back seat, looked out the window. She said nothing. But her eyes were doing the thing they always did, that quiet, ancient calculating that made Jennifer feel, sometimes, like her 9-year-old daughter could see straight through to the center of the earth. No. Let's go back 10 years. Jennifer Adiz Williams had never planned to be a tutor. She had planned to study, graduate, get out of Seoul on her scholarship with her head held high, and never owe anyone anything. That was the plan. Plans, as Jennifer had learned the hard way, did not always cooperate. It started with her stepfather's medical bills. The man had never been particularly kind to her, but he was her mother's husband and her mother loved him fiercely, and when the hospital bills began stacking up like bricks, Jennifer's mother had called her in Seoul with a voice like a cracked plate. "Jen, I hate to ask." "Don't ask," Jennifer said immediately. "I'll figure it out." She was 17. She figured things out. She printed a flyer. English and mathematics tutoring, all ages welcome, reasonable rates. She pasted it at a bus stop near the school. It was meant for elementary kids. She'd drawn a small smiling book on the corner because she thought it made the flyer look approachable. She did not expect a call from the Yoon household. She especially did not expect Mrs. Yoon, formidable, immaculate, terrifying in the way only truly wealthy Korean women could be, to arrive at the bus stop personally, to look Jennifer up and down with the dispassion of someone evaluating a piece of furniture, and to say, "My son chose you specifically. I would like to understand why." Jennifer had not known what to say to that. "He's 18, Mrs. Yoon continued. "He does not need elementary tutoring. But he says you are the smartest student in his school and he learns better from peers." Pause. "I have conditions." The conditions were delivered like commandments. Loose clothing, nothing fitted. No makeup. No perfume. Hair in a bun at all times. No jewelry of any kind. Sessions to be conducted in the study with the door open. No lingering after the session ends. Jennifer had agreed to every single one. Because the money Mrs. Yoon placed on the table at that meeting was more than Jennifer had made in 4 months of every side job she'd scraped together. And her mother needed it. And her stepfather's liver wasn't getting any better. So she tied her hair up, she left the earrings at home, and she showed up to the Yoon house every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. She had expected arrogance. She'd seen him at school, Yoon Woo-hyun, surrounded by boys who laughed too loudly at his jokes and girls who watched him from across the cafeteria with their hopes written all over their faces. He was the kind of boy who moved through a room like he owned the air in it. But in the study, with the books open between them and no audience, he was different. He was curious, surprisingly so. He asked questions that went far beyond the textbook. He challenged her answers not to be difficult, but because he genuinely wanted to understand the why beneath the what. He made her think harder. He made her laugh twice in the first session without even trying. She had not expected that. She had definitely not expected him to look at her the way he did when she explained something particularly well, like she was the most interesting person he had ever been required to sit still in front of. But that is the backstory. And this story does not live in the past. It lives right now in a parking lot in New York in a text message that said, "He's here," in the eyes of 2 little girls with sharp Asian features and their mother's full mouth, who had followed a stranger through a mall because something in them recognized something in him that Jennifer had never told them to look for. And here's where it gets crazy. Yoon Woo-hyun didn't get back in the car that brought him to the mall. He stood outside the entrance for a long moment, hands in his pockets, watching the direction Jennifer's car had gone. His assistant, Park, appeared at his elbow. "Sir, the afternoon meeting has been moved up." "Run a check on her," Woo-hyun said quietly. Park blinked. "Sir?" "Her name is Jennifer Williams. She's here in New York. I want everything, current address, occupation, family situation. Everything." He turned and walked back toward the waiting car. And Park? He paused without looking back. Be discreet. Park had worked for Eun Woo-hyun for 6 years. He had seen the man navigate hostile takeovers, family board meetings that lasted 9 hours, and a near collapse of the Tokyo branch with the same unshakable calm. He had never seen him look the way he looked right now, jaw tight, eyes somewhere far away, the composure fractured by something Park couldn't name. He got on the phone immediately. Jennifer didn't sleep that night. She lay on her back in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and she thought about a photograph. A single photograph she had kept in the bottom of the wooden box under her bed for 10 years. Not because she needed it, she told herself, not because she looked at it, but because throwing it away had always felt like the last step on a road she wasn't ready to walk all the way down. Mary and Martha were asleep. She could hear Martha's soft, chaotic snoring and the silence that meant Mary was sleeping deeply and peacefully, because Mary slept like she did everything else, with intent. Jennifer pressed the heels of her hands against her eyes. He had said her name the way someone says the name of a thing they thought they'd lost. Like it surprised him. Like it hurt him. She had not expected that. She had expected anger, maybe. Cold dismissal. She had been prepared for those. She had not been prepared for the way his face had opened up for exactly 1 second, before the composure slammed back into place, and she had seen something in it that looked terrifyingly like relief. She turned over. Pulled the covers up. Outside, in a hotel room 30 minutes across the city, Eun Woo-hyun sat at the desk with his jacket off and a glass of water he hadn't touched, reading a file that Park had assembled with startling speed. Jennifer Adiz Williams. 30 years old. High school English teacher. Single mother. 2 daughters, age 9. No record of marriage. No listed father on the birth certificates. He read that last part again. No listed father on the birth certificates. He sat back in his chair and looked at the ceiling for a very long time. The daughters were biracial. He had seen their faces. He had seen their eyes. His hand, resting on the desk, closed slowly into a fist. He reached for his phone. Then he stopped. Because the question forming in his mind was one he wasn't ready to ask out loud yet. Asking it out loud would make it real. And if it was real, if those 2 little girls with his eyes in Jennifer's mouth were what he was beginning to suspect they were, then everything he thought he knew about the last 10 years was about to collapse. He set the phone down. He would find her first. Then he would ask. Jennifer's classroom was a controlled kind of chaos. That was the only way to describe it. 32 juniors who arrived every morning like they had collectively decided that literature was a personal affront to them, and Jennifer Williams who arrived every morning like she had collectively decided she would not let them win. It was a standoff both sides pretended not to enjoy. Okay, she said, leaning against the front of her desk, arms folded, looking at 32 faces that were doing various degrees of pretending not to listen. Someone tell me what Fitzgerald is saying about the American dream in chapter 4. And before you say, it's complicated, I want you to know that I will accept complicated. I just will not accept silent. A boy in the back row, Deshawn, who was smarter than he let anyone know, said, he's saying it's a lie. Elaborate. Like, it looks real. It looks like something you can actually grab. But you get close enough, it moves. Jennifer pointed at him. There it is. Write that down. That is your thesis. She turned back to the board. She didn't hear the classroom door open. She heard the silence though. The particular kind of silence that falls over 32 teenagers when something more interesting than literature walks into the room. She turned around. Eun Woo-hyun stood in the doorway in a gray suit, his hands loose at his sides, looking at her with that same expression she'd seen at the mall, composed, careful, and underneath it, something that was working very hard not to show. For 1 terrible second, the only thing Jennifer could hear was her own heartbeat. Then Deshawn in the back row said quietly, Okay, Miss Williams. She cleared her throat. Class, read pages 140 to 160. Quietly. I'll be right back. She walked to the door. She stepped into the hallway. She pulled it shut behind her and she looked at him and she said in a voice that was much steadier than she felt, You can't be here. I know, he said. This is my workplace. I know. Woo-hyun. How long have you been in New York? She looked at him. 9 years. Something moved across his face. 9 years. He said it like he was measuring it. I looked for you. I know. Jennifer, don't. Her voice dropped. Whatever you came here to say, don't. Not here. Not like this. He studied her for a long moment. She'd gotten better at holding his gaze over the years. Mostly by practicing in the mirror, she would never admit that to anyone. He had the kind of eyes that felt like a question you couldn't dodge. I just want to talk, he said finally. That's all. We don't have anything to talk about. I think we do. She glanced back at her classroom door. 32 teenagers who were definitely not reading. I have a class. After then. I have. After your class, he said, and there was something quiet and immovable about his tone that had always unnerved her. I will wait. He did not wait in the hallway. He waited in the parking lot in a sleek black car with tinted windows for 2.5 hours. Jennifer knew because she checked. Twice. She had hoped he would get bored and leave. He did not get bored. He did not leave. He sat there like a man who had learned, somewhere in the last 10 years, that patience was a skill worth developing. When the last student filed out and Jennifer finally walked to her car, he stepped out of his. You don't give up, she said. I didn't used to, he said. But I learned. She didn't ask what that meant. She was afraid she already knew. What do you want to know? She asked. Where did you go? America. I know that now. Why? She looked at him across the hood of her car. The afternoon sun was cutting low and orange across the parking lot, and it caught the angles of his face, and for a disorienting second she was 17 again in a study in Seoul, and he was leaning over to show her something in a textbook, and their arms had touched, and she had looked up and found him already looking at her. Anne. It was complicated, she said. His jaw tightened slightly. Jennifer, I'm asking you a real question. And I'm giving you a real answer. She unlocked her car. It was complicated. And it was a long time ago. And it doesn't change anything. It changes everything. His voice was quiet, controlled. But there was heat under it now. I'm standing in a parking lot in New York because it changes everything. She got in her car. She drove away without looking in the rearview mirror. This time she cried the whole way home. Quietly, efficiently, the way she did most things, so that by the time she pulled up to the house, her face was composed and dry and she was ready to be just Mummy, because that was the role that mattered and she could not afford to be anything less than all of it. But wait, here's where it gets crazy. She had no idea that 2 days later her daughters were going to go to war. It started at school pickup on a Thursday afternoon. Jennifer pulled up to West Side Elementary and found something unexpected in the usually mundane landscape of the pickup line. A food truck. A large, gleaming, entirely too well-branded food truck with a handwritten sign on the side that said, "Today only, free. Choose anything." And it was parked directly in front of the school. And the crowd of children swarming, it looked like something from a documentary about joy. Jennifer parked. She got out. She squinted. Martha spotted her first and came flying across the pavement at a velocity that Jennifer had given up trying to moderate. Mummy? Mummy, there's free jollof and there's bibimbap and there's mochi. Who organized this? Martha pointed. Eun Woo-hyun was standing a respectful distance from the chaos, in another perfectly tailored suit that had absolutely no business being at an elementary school pickup. He had a cup of coffee. He was watching the children with a look of genuine, unguarded warmth that Jennifer had not braced herself for. He met her eyes. Nodded once. Jennifer's mouth pressed into a flat line. Mary appeared at her elbow, tugging her sleeve. He told us you used to teach him, she said, in the tone of someone reporting intelligence gathered from a field mission. Did he? He also said you were very smart. Mary? He looks stinking rich, Martha announced, having reappeared with a container of mochi. Like, Mummy, this is real gold on the truck logo. I licked it. You licked. It didn't taste like gold. It tasted like paint. But it's probably real gold and they painted over it. Jennifer turned to look at her younger daughter with the full power of her maternal confusion. Martha blinked back at her with absolute sincerity. Go get in the car, Jennifer said. Can we take the mochi? Get the car. Martha went. Jennifer turned back and walked straight toward Woo-hyun, because if she was going to be embarrassed in a school parking lot, she was at least going to do it with eye contact. This is inappropriate, she said. It's a food truck, he said pleasantly. For the children. You don't know any of these children. I know two of them. She stared at him. He sipped his coffee. A passing third grader tugged on his jacket sleeve to say thank you, and he looked down at the child and smiled, actually smiled, the full thing, the one Jennifer had not seen in 10 years, and said, "Enjoy it." Jennifer felt something pull dangerously in her chest. She ignored it aggressively. "Stop inserting yourself into our lives," she said, and she walked back to her car, and she drove home with two children in the back seat who were eating free mochi and giggling about something in a way that made her deeply suspicious. That night, behind their closed bedroom door, Mary and Martha had a meeting. Martha, who was the louder and more dramatic of the two, lay flat on her stomach on her bed, chin in her hands. "He likes her," she announced. Mary, seated cross-legged on her own bed with the patience of a person twice her age, said, "He loves her." "How do you know?" "Because of how he looked at her." Mary considered. "Like how she looks at his picture." The room got quiet. Martha sat up slowly. "The picture in the box under the bed?" "Yes." Martha's eyes went wide with the dawning light of someone who had just connected two very important dots. Mary, do you think?" "Don't say it out loud," Mary said. "But do you think?" "I said don't say it out loud." Martha clamped her mouth shut. Her eyes were doing several calculations at once. Then very quietly she said, "We need a plan." Meanwhile, Jennifer's phone buzzed. Her cousin Naomi. "Girl, tell me everything. Is he as fine as you always described?" Jennifer pinched the bridge of her nose. "How did you know?" "Because I'm your cousin and I know everything, and also you texted me, 'He's here,' for days ago, and then said nothing else, and I have been losing my mind." Jennifer sighed. She walked to the kitchen, away from the girls' room. She lowered her voice. "He showed up at my school today." Naomi shrieked. "Naomi." I'm calm. What happened? What did he say? What did he look like? Did he ask about?" "He asked where I went. He said he looked for me." Jennifer set the kettle on. "I left." There was a pause. "Jennifer." Naomi's voice shifted. "Don't you think it's time to?" "No." "He deserves to." "No." Firm. Final. "He doesn't know. And it needs to stay that way. Can I trust you with this?" "Of course you can," Naomi said immediately. "Of course. You know that. You're my family." "Thank you." Jennifer exhaled. "I don't know what I'd do without you, honestly. You and Auntie Grace have held me together." "Always," Naomi said. And in the warmth of that word, Jennifer missed the thing underneath it. The sharpness, the calculation, the something that was making notes. When the call ended, Naomi was at the other end of the call. Her hand squeezed the edge of her counter until her knuckles turned red. "Not again," she muttered under her breath, her eyes fixed on something beyond the kitchen wall. She had had enough of all the good things happening to Jennifer. She was still angry about David. She loved David, but he never batted an eyelash her way. The worst? Jennifer didn't even like him. She went on her laptop and inserted the name Eun Woo-hyun on Google. She went through the feed meticulously as she studied the Eun family. She already had everything planned out. The next day, Eun Woo-hyun was in a boardroom on the 43rd floor of his family's newly opened New York branch. Around him, 12 people in expensive suits were watching him with the particular attention of people who had learned that the CEO's silences were worth paying attention to. The projector was lit. The quarterly figures were on the screen. His CFO had just finished a sentence that everyone in the room seemed to find very important. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. New York area code. He would have ignored it. He always ignored unknown numbers during meetings. But something made him pick it up. "Mr. Eun?" A woman's voice. Professional, slightly cautious. "This is Nurse Chin from St. Agatha's Children's Hospital. We have a patient here, a child, Martha Williams. She was brought in by her school. There was no mother listed in the emergency contact. You were listed as the secondary emergency contact." Woo-hyun was already standing up. "Is she all right?" "She's stable. We'd like a guardian present for the examination." He was already in the elevator before the call ended. Park appeared from nowhere with his coat. Woo-hyun put it on without breaking stride. "Meeting," Park said. "Reschedule it." "Sir, the Tokyo partners flew in specifically for..." "Reschedule it." The car was already running. At St. Agatha's, the emergency room had the particular controlled chaos energy of a Thursday afternoon. Nurses moving quickly, a child crying somewhere down the hall, the antiseptic smell that Woo Hyun had always found unsettling. He spotted Martha before anyone pointed her to him. She was sitting up on the examination bed with a bright yellow headband and an IV in her arm that she was examining with scientific curiosity rather than distress. Beside her, Mary sat in the chair next to the bed, feet dangling, with the expression of someone supervising an operation they designed. Woo Hyun stopped in the doorway. Martha looked up. Her face opened into a grin so enormous it was slightly alarming. "You came. What happened?" He crossed to the bed. He looked her over. She was pale under her warm brown skin, but her eyes were bright and alert and the grin didn't suggest serious danger. He looked at the IV. He looked at Mary. What happened to her? Mary said nothing. She folded her hands in her lap. "I fainted," Martha announced. "At school." Very dramatically. "They said I looked like a wilting flower." She seemed pleased with this. "Are you in pain?" "Not really." She tilted her head. "I was a little scared when they put the needle in. But then I thought about how you'd have to come and it felt better." Woo Hyun went very still. He looked at Mary. Mary looked at the middle distance with the serenity of someone who had nothing to do with any of this. "Mary," he said quietly, "did your sister plan this?" Pause. "Martha plans a lot of things," Mary said. "I provide logistical support." Martha smothered a laugh with her arm. Woo Hyun pulled up the second chair and sat down. He looked at these two children with their mismatched volumes and their shared scheming in their eyes. God, their eyes. And he felt something complicated move through him that he didn't have a name for yet. "Where is your mother?" he asked. "Teaching," Martha said. "She doesn't know we called you." "A beat. Yet. Right?" He rubbed a hand over his face. "And you listed me as an emergency contact because we like you," Martha said simply. "And because Mummy cries," Mary added. The room went quiet. Martha for once said nothing. She looked at her sister. Then at Woo Hyun. Something had shifted in her expression. The performance of it had fallen away and what was underneath was the real thing. Something that looked older than 9. "She cries at night," Mary continued in the same level tone she used for everything. "When she thinks we're asleep. She has a picture in a box under her bed. She takes it out sometimes. She looks at it for a long time. Then she cries." Woo Hyun's throat had tightened so severely he couldn't speak. Martha picked at the edge of her hospital bracelet. "We don't know who it is," she said, and her voice was very small now. "But she's sad. She's always sad even when she's smiling. We wanted her to stop being sad." She looked up at him. "We thought maybe if she had someone." She stopped. Because the look on Woo Hyun's face was not one that children were supposed to see on adults. It was the look of a man receiving something that breaks him and puts him back together simultaneously, and both processes happening at the same speed and neither one finished. He cleared his throat. He blinked once. "That picture," he said carefully, "in the box under her bed." The girls waited. "What does the man in the picture look like?" Mary looked at him for a very long time. Then she said, "Like you." Jennifer arrived 47 minutes later. She had gotten the call from the school during her free period. The real call from the principal, explaining that Martha had fainted and had been taken to St. Agatha's and that a Mr. Eun had arrived as the secondary emergency contact. The principal's voice had the cautious neutrality of someone relaying information they didn't fully understand. Jennifer had driven to that hospital faster than she had driven anywhere in years. She found them in examination room 4, Woo Hyun in a chair between the two beds, Martha talking at him about something with great enthusiasm, Mary reading a hospital brochure she had acquired from somewhere and chosen to treat as literature. It looked, from the doorway, like a scene that had arranged itself specifically to dismantle her. Martha Adiz Williams. Jennifer's voice stopped the room. Martha's head turned. The enthusiasm dialed back approximately 20%. "Are you hurt?" "Not really." "Are you hurt?" "No." Jennifer exhaled. She crossed the room, checked the 4, checked her daughter's face, checked her temperature with the back of her hand the way mothers do, that ancient, specific gesture. Then she stepped back and looked at Woo Hyun. He had stood when she walked in. Of course he had. "Thank you for coming," she said. Her voice was professional. "Still, she had my number," he said simply. "I know. I'm sorry. She shouldn't have." "Don't apologize." Something in his voice stopped her. "Don't apologize for that." He paused. "The doctor ran some tests. They'd like to speak with you." He seemed to choose his next words with care. There was something they found. Something they need to discuss. Jennifer looked at her daughter. Martha, for the first time since Jennifer had arrived, did not look triumphant. She looked a little uncertain. "Baby," Jennifer said quietly, "are you okay?" "The doctor said it's manageable," Martha said. "She said lots of people have it their whole lives and they're fine." Jennifer was already moving toward the nurse's station. The doctor, young, precise, kind, sat across from Jennifer in a small consultation room and explained it with the particular care of someone who knew they were delivering news with weight. It was a cardiac arrhythmia. Mild. The kind that went undetected in children until a fainting episode triggered an ECG. Manageable with monitoring, possibly medication if it progressed. Not dangerous if managed correctly. Not a death sentence. Not even close. "Does anyone else in the family have this?" the doctor asked. Jennifer opened her mouth, closed it. "Her father's medical history," the doctor said gently, "would be very helpful if we could access it." Jennifer sat with that for a moment. Then she said, "I'll see what I can do." She found Woo Hyun in the hallway outside the room. He was leaning against the wall, jacket off now, sleeves rolled up. He looked like he'd been standing there waiting for her specifically. Not for news. For her. "The girls told me something," he said. "They tell everyone things. It's their primary love language." Jennifer. The way he said her name, low, private, direct, cut through the lightness she was trying to hold. "They told me about the picture." She said nothing. "Is it me?" he asked. The hallway was quiet. A nurse passed at the far end. The fluorescent lights hummed. "Woo Hyun. Is there something you're hiding from me?" he asked again, and there was nothing demanding in it, nothing combative. It was simply a man asking the one question he'd been building toward for days, and all the composure and the patience and the careful approach had finally brought him here, to this hallway, to this moment. Jennifer looked at him. She looked at him for a long time. She thought about the news the doctor broke to her. She remembered Woo Hyun's fainting episodes back in high school and how he was usually in and out of the hospital and had a special physician see him in the Yoon mansion. But that was not what she wanted to discuss with a man she hadn't seen in 10 years. She didn't know why the universe chose this time to make this happen. Then she said, "I have to get back to my daughters," and she walked past him. But her hands at her sides were shaking. 2 floors up, in a private waiting area that the hospital reserved for VIP guests, Woo Hyun sat alone and made a phone call. "Park." His voice was very quiet. "I need you to arrange something." Discreetly. Completely discreetly. He paused. "A DNA test. For 2 children. Their names are Mary and Martha Williams." He hung up. He sat there for a long time. He knew something was off. He knew the doctor mentioned something that rattled Jennifer, but she didn't want to mention it to him. Outside the window, New York moved at its relentless pace, indifferent to the possibility that a man's entire life might be rearranging itself on the 43rd floor of a children's hospital. And now, are you invested? Because we need to know. In the comments right now, tell us, do you think Jennifer was right to keep the truth from him? Or should she have fought harder to tell him? Drop your answer below, and if you're new here, subscribe to Afro-K Storified. We are just getting started. 3 weeks passed. They were the strangest 3 weeks of Jennifer's adult life, and she had had some genuinely strange ones. Woo Hyun did not disappear. But he also did not push. He seemed to have made a decision. She would not know until much later that it was the decision to wait for the test results before saying another word, and that decision made him into something worse than confrontational. It made him patient. It made him present. It made him the man who sent the girls home from school on Fridays in a car because he'd learned their bus was always late and didn't say a word to Jennifer about it. She just found out from Martha, who mentioned it the way she mentioned everything, which was completely and without warning. "He's nice," Martha told her, eating cereal at the kitchen counter with aggressive cheerfulness. "Stop talking to strangers," Jennifer said. "He's not a stranger. He's your friend." "He's not," Jennifer stopped. "Eat your cereal. Mary likes him," Martha continued. Mary is 9. So am I. Martha. She doesn't like many people, Martha pressed on, ignoring tone entirely, which was her spiritual gift. She likes Miss Patterson the librarian and Grandma Liz, and that cat that lives outside the bodega. And now him. That's her whole list. Mary doesn't add people to the list for nothing. Grandma Grace was Naomi's mother, her aunt. But living with them when the twins were born made them believe Aunt Grace was their grandmother. Jennifer looked at her younger daughter, younger by 6 minutes, a fact Martha brought up whenever she needed to justify dramatics, and felt the same thing she always felt. A love so enormous it was occasionally alarming, and underneath it, a fear that lived there permanently. She thought about what the doctor had said. About the arrhythmia. About family medical history. She thought about the test she hadn't arranged yet. Couldn't bring herself to arrange yet. She thought about Woo Hyun's face in the hospital hallway. Is it me? She poured her coffee and did not answer. The results of Woo Hyun's test came on a Tuesday. Park delivered them in a sealed envelope and set them on the desk and left the room without being asked, which meant he already knew what they said and was being merciful. Woo Hyun opened the envelope. He read it once. Then he set it flat on the desk and he sat completely still for a long time. 99.97% probability of paternity. For both children. Mary. Martha. His daughters. His daughters who had followed him through a mall because something in their blood recognized something in his. His daughters who had planned an entire hospital visit to put him and their mother in the same room. His daughters who had told him, with their 9-year-old directness, that their mother cried at night over a photograph. He picked up the phone and called Jennifer. She answered on the 3rd ring. He could hear the school in the background, voices, a bell, the particular acoustic of a hallway. I need to see you, he said. She heard something in his voice. What happened? I need to see you in person. Tonight, if possible. Pause. Woo Hyun. What happened? Jennifer. His voice cracked. Just slightly. Just enough. Please. She came. She showed up at the hotel lobby at 7 p.m. with her coat buttoned all the way up and her hair loose because she'd been in too much of a hurry to tie it, and she found him standing near the window in a suite that looked over the city, and he looked different. Smaller somehow. Like something had taken all the composure out of him and left him just standing there in it. He turned when she walked in. He held up the test results. She went still. She hadn't known about the test. She hadn't known he'd arranged it. But she looked at that sealed envelope, already opened, already read, and she felt her legs go slightly uncertain. When? She asked. 3 weeks ago. His voice was rough. I needed to know. You had no right. They're mine. He said it quietly. Not like an accusation. Like something that had weight. Like something he was still learning to hold. Jennifer, they're mine. The room was very quiet. Yes, she said. One word. Small and enormous simultaneously. He turned away from her. He put his hand against the window glass. She watched his back, the set of his shoulders, the way he breathed, and she felt tears come without warning, the kind that bypassed all her careful controls and just arrived. 10 years, he said. Yes. I had daughters for 10 years and I didn't. He stopped. He brought his hand down. I looked for you. I looked for 3 years. I know. You knew I was looking and you still. Your mother told me to leave. Her voice came out harder than she meant it to. She gave me money and she told me to leave Korea and not come back. She told me if I stayed, if I told you, it would destroy your family's position. She said the baby would be an embarrassment. She said I would be an embarrassment. She paused. She was very specific about it. Woo Hyun turned around. His face was a thing she had never seen before. Something between devastation and fury that his careful composure was not equipped to hold. Why didn't you tell me what she'd done? Because you loved her, Jennifer said simply. She was your mother. And I was nobody. I was the girl at the bus stop with the flyer for elementary school students. I was the scholarship kid from a half-Korean, half-Nigerian family who had a crush on the richest boy in school. She exhaled. And I was 17 and terrified and she was terrifying. So I left. You should have told me. Maybe. She met his eyes. But I didn't. And I'm not asking you to forgive me for that. I'm just telling you why. He looked at her for a long time. Then he said quietly, You're so selfish. It landed like a slap. Not because it was delivered with cruelty, there was no cruelty in it, but because it was delivered with pain. With the voice of a man who had been waiting 10 years for something that had been kept from him, and was only now understanding the full shape of what was missing. Jennifer held his gaze. She did not look away. But she did not answer either. Because she was afraid that if she opened her mouth, the only thing that would come out was, I know. I know. I know. I'm so sorry. I would do it the same way again because I was so afraid and I had no one and your mother had already made me feel like nothing and I needed to protect whatever was left of me. I know. She didn't say any of that. She picked up her bag. My number hasn't changed, she said. If you want to talk about the girls. About arrangements. About what happens next. She looked at him one more time. I'll answer. And she walked out. She was in the elevator when her phone buzzed. Naomi, how are you? Girls okay? Jennifer stared at the message for a moment. Then she typed back, fine. Long day. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that 40 minutes earlier, Naomi had been let out of a taxi 3 blocks from this same hotel. Had fixed her hair in the lobby mirror. She wore a soft pink dress that clung to her body, revealing her curves. Her hair was pulled in a sleek bun, gold earrings and dark purple lipstick across her lips. She was here on a mission. One she had been cooking since she had first heard about Eun Woo Hyun. She took an elevator to the 8th floor, knocked on suite 812, and was let in. Naomi had rehearsed this differently. She'd imagined herself as the calm voice of reason, the concerned cousin who simply wanted to help the man understand the situation fully, who was only filling in the gaps Jennifer never could. But in the actual room, with Woo Hyun's expression still raw from whatever had happened before she arrived, the rehearsal fell apart a little. Jennifer doesn't tell people everything about herself, Naomi said carefully, setting her bag on the chair with the deliberate ease of someone who wanted to seem comfortable. She has a way of framing things, making herself the victim. Woo Hyun said nothing. He was looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. She's had a lot of male attention over the years, Naomi continued. In New York. I mean, she's beautiful, obviously. But she doesn't always make the best choices. She's my cousin and I love her, but you deserve to know the full picture. Still nothing from him. She was with someone for 2 years, Naomi pressed. A man named David. It ended badly. Before that there was someone else. She doesn't tell people about that period. She paused. I just think if you're trying to understand her, trying to understand why she made the choices she did, the pattern is relevant. She smiled. Warm. Helpful. I'm a Yale graduate, she added. Law. I know it's a strange thing to mention, but I understand your world maybe in a way Jennifer doesn't. I just want to be honest with you. She let that sit in the air for a moment. Then Eun Woo Hyun set down his glass and looked at her with the most level, unambiguous expression she had ever received from another person. Jennifer, he said, is the love of my life. You should be ashamed of yourself. Naomi blinked. I will respect you this once, he continued quietly, because she considers you family. But I need you to hear what I'm about to say very clearly. Pause. Don't come here again. Naomi left the hotel with her hands very still and her face composed and her mind moving at a speed that had nothing to do with relief. She had miscalculated. She understood that now. She needed a different approach. What she didn't know, what neither of them knew yet, was that Eun Woo Hyun's hotel suite had a security system. Standard corporate-level installation. Cameras in the hallway outside the suite entrance. Motion activated. Feeding to a cloud server that Park monitored on his phone. Ann Park, diligent, loyal, deeply professional Park, had seen the footage of Jennifer's arrival. Had seen her leave. Had seen Naomi arrive minutes after. He had said nothing to his employer yet. But he had flagged the timestamp. And he had saved the footage. Jennifer didn't hear from Woo Hyun for 5 days. She told herself this was fine. She told herself this was actually ideal. She had said what she needed to say. She had let him process what he needed to process. She was giving him space and space was healthy and she was absolutely not checking her phone every 40 minutes to see if his name appeared. She was definitely doing that. On the 6th day, she was grading papers at the kitchen table when her phone rang. Unknown number, New York area code. She picked up, half expecting the hospital again, already calculating whether Martha had staged a sequel. It was not the hospital. Ms. Williams. A man's voice, not Woo Hyun. Professional, measured. My name is Park Jun-seo. I work for Mr. Eun. He asked me to forward you something. I'm sending it to your email now. What is it? A security footage file. Time-stamped from last Tuesday evening. A brief pause. He thought you should see it. Jennifer opened her laptop. The email arrived while she was still on the phone. She opened the attachment. Hallway footage. Clear timestamp. She watched herself exit the elevator. Watched herself walk to the elevator bay. Watched the elevator doors close. And then, 43 seconds later, she watched Naomi step out of the stairwell and walk directly to suite 812. Jennifer sat very still. She replayed it. 43 seconds. Naomi had been in the building already. Before Jennifer left. Waiting. Jennifer set the phone down. She did not hang up. She pressed both hands flat on the table and breathed slowly. Park's voice came through the speaker. Ms. Williams? Are you? Tell him I saw it, she said. Thank you. She hung up. She did not cry. She was too far past the stage where she cried about things like this. What she felt instead was the specific cold clarity of someone whose world had just reorganized itself and who was now seeing the map correctly for the first time. How many conversations had she had with Naomi about Woo Hyun? How many details? His name, his family, the hotel he was staying at, the children's school? Had she shared over dinner and phone calls because Naomi was family, because Naomi was safe, because Jennifer had believed, had needed to believe, that she had at least one person in her corner? She picked up her phone. She did not call Naomi. She sat at the kitchen table and she let herself feel it, the full weight of it, for exactly 7 minutes. Then she closed her laptop, stacked her papers, and went to check if the girls had finished their homework. Naomi came by the next evening. She brought plantains. She always brought something when she visited. It was the particular grammar of her kindness, which Jennifer now understood had always been a currency. She set them on the counter and filled the kitchen with easy conversation about her workday, about a case she was researching, about a cousin's wedding in Atlanta next month. Jennifer cooked. She responded. She smiled in the right places. Have you spoken to Woo Hyun? Naomi asked, with the casual precision of someone who had been building to it. Not recently, Jennifer said. He's still in the city, I think. Naomi watched her. You should probably sort things out. For the girls. Jennifer kept her eyes on the pan. I think, Naomi said carefully, that you should be careful with him. He's from a world you don't understand, Jen. I don't want to see you get hurt again. Jennifer turned the flame down. Then she turned around. How do you know he's still in the city? She asked. Naomi's expression didn't change. People talk. New York's smaller than it seems. Right? Jennifer held her gaze for a moment. The food smells like it's almost ready. Can you get the girls? She was at her classroom door, watching the last students file out, when she looked up and found Woo Hyun in the hallway. Again like the first time, except this time he wasn't waiting at the door. He was already inside, standing near the back of the empty room, and he looked like a man who had run out of patience with his own patience. I saw the footage, she said. I know. Park told me. He crossed his arms. How long? I don't know. Jennifer. I don't know, she said sharper. I don't know how long she's been. I don't know what she said to you. I don't know what she was trying to do. She exhaled. But I think I know now why you looked at me that way. After the hotel. What way? Like you were angry at me. Like I'd done something. She stopped. What did she tell you? He was quiet for a moment. Then, nothing I believed. But it affected you. For about 4 minutes, he said. Until I reminded myself who she was and who you are. He uncrossed his arms. Jennifer. I'm not here about Naomi. She waited. I'm here because you told me you walked away to protect our daughters. And I called you selfish. He paused. You were scared and alone and 17 and my mother threatened you. And I called you selfish. A beat. I owe you an apology. Jennifer looked at him. Something in the center of her, something that had been braced against him, tight and defended for weeks, shifted. I wasn't only trying to protect them, she said quietly. I was also trying to protect myself. From your world. From your mother. From being the girl who wasn't good enough. You were always. I know that now, she said. I didn't know it then. The classroom was very quiet around them. My mother will answer for what she did, he said. I'll see to that. I don't need her to answer for it. I do. His voice was even. For my own sake, I need her to answer for it. Jennifer nodded slowly. She looked down at her desk, at the stack of essays on Fitzgerald, at the life she'd built in this city that had always felt like a waiting room. Like something temporary she'd set up while she figured out what came next. What do you want? She asked. From me. From this. He looked at her for a long time. I want my daughters to know who their father is, he said. And I want to earn the right to be in your life again. That's all. In whatever order works. She thought about Mary and Martha. About the plan they'd hatched with their 9-year-old certainty. About the photograph in the box. She thought about how Woo Hyun had looked at her daughters in the hospital with something that wasn't curiosity or obligation. It was love. The immediate, inexplicable kind that doesn't need reason. Start with the girls, she said finally. He nodded. And Woo Hyun. She met his eyes. Slow. As slow as you need, he said. They told Mary and Martha together on a Saturday afternoon. It was Jennifer's idea to do it at home. Neutral ground. Their ground. She made the jollof rice because it was the girls' comfort food and also because cooking gave her hands something to do while her heart did whatever it was doing. Woo Hyun arrived at the door with flowers, which Martha immediately appropriated, and a quiet expression that Jennifer recognized as him doing the same thing she was doing. Holding something enormous very carefully. They sat the girls on the sofa. Martha had been suspicious from the moment she saw them both in the same room without anyone being sick or shouting. She sat with her knees together and her eyes darting between them like she was watching a tennis match. Mary sat with her hands folded and waited. Jennifer started. She said that Mr. Eun, their Mr. Eun, the food truck man, had known her a long time ago. A very long time ago. And that there was something they'd always deserved to know, and she was sorry it had taken this long to tell them. She looked at Woo Hyun. He looked at the girls. I'm your father, he said. Silence. Martha's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Mary's eyes filled with tears. She didn't make a sound. She just sat there with the tears running down her face with the specific dignity of a child who never cries and is very surprised to find herself doing it. Then Martha launched off the sofa and hit Woo Hyun in the chest with the full force of a 9-year-old who had been holding a very important feeling for a very long time without knowing what to do with it. He caught her. He held her. She was crying into his shirt and saying things Jennifer couldn't quite hear, and his eyes were closed and his face was, she couldn't look at it. She looked at Mary instead. Mary had walked over to Jennifer. She climbed into her lap. She tucked her head against her mother's shoulder. And very quietly she said, I knew. Jennifer held her tighter. I know, baby. I'm glad he found us. Me too, Jennifer said, and she meant it in a way that surprised her. Me too. What none of them knew, not Jennifer with her daughters in her arms, not Woo Hyun holding Martha and finally understanding what 10 years of missing something felt like, was that Naomi was outside. She had seen Woo Hyun's car in the driveway. She had her key to Jennifer's apartment in her hand. And she had just heard, through the front door she'd cracked open with her key and then stopped. She'd heard everything. Her face was very still, very controlled, and very dangerous. She pulled the door shut quietly. She took out her phone and dialed a number Jennifer had never seen. Mrs. Eun, she said. I think we need to talk. It came apart the way these things always do. Quickly, from an unexpected angle, and not in the way anyone planned. Mrs. Eun arrived in New York 48 hours after Naomi's call. She was exactly as Jennifer remembered, immaculate, contained, with the particular elegance of a woman who had spent decades ensuring that nothing about her was untidy or surprising. She arrived at Jennifer's school at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday with no appointment, sat in the hallway and waited. She waited with the patience of someone who considered waiting a form of dominance. Jennifer found her there when she came out of her last class. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Mrs. Eun stood. Jennifer, she said. Formal. Unreadable. Mrs. Eun. Jennifer kept her voice level. My classroom is empty. Come in. She would not do this in a hallway. She had spent 10 years not doing things in hallways. They sat across from each other, Jennifer behind her desk, Mrs. Oon in the chair across from it, and it might have looked from the outside like a parent-teacher conference. It was the furthest thing from a parent-teacher conference. "You should have stayed gone," Mrs. Oon said. "I didn't come back," Jennifer said. "He found me. Because you allowed those children to approach him. My daughters followed a stranger in a mall because they recognized something in him they'd never seen before." Jennifer's voice was very calm. "I didn't plan that. No one planned that. That's just what happens when you try to erase people who were never meant to be erased." Mrs. Oon was quiet. "I'm not your enemy," Jennifer said. "I never was. I was a 17-year-old girl who was in love with your son and terrified of you. You gave me money and told me to disappear, and I did. I followed every rule you ever set." She paused. "But I'm 30 years old now, and those are his daughters. And you don't get to manage this the way you managed everything else." Something moved across Mrs. Oon's face. Something she controlled quickly but not quite quickly enough. "He won't forgive me," she said. It came out quieter than she'd intended. "That's between you and him," Jennifer said. "I'm not here to punish you, Mrs. Oon. But I'm also not going to stand aside so you can." Woo Hyun was already waiting outside. Jennifer hadn't told him. But she had texted Park, one word, school, and Park had understood. He walked in as his mother walked out. They stopped in the doorway. The air between them was the kind of air that takes decades to pressurize. Mrs. Oon looked at her son. He looked at her. "I know what you did," he said. "Woo Hyun. I have known for 2 weeks." His voice was quiet. Completely, frighteningly quiet. "I have been deciding how to have this conversation. And I've decided that I'm only going to have it once, so I need you to hear every word." He stepped aside to let her pass through the door. "The car is outside. We will talk in private. And you will listen." She walked past him without speaking. He looked back at Jennifer. She gave him a small nod. He followed his mother out. They talked for 3 hours. Jennifer was home when he finally called. The girls were asleep. She was sitting on the floor of her bedroom with her back against the bed and her phone on her knee, the wooden box from under the bed beside her, the photograph in her hand. She hadn't planned to take it out. She'd just been sitting here and then she had been. When his name appeared on her screen, she picked up. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I will be." His voice was tired in the way that meant something had been set down, not dropped, set down deliberately. "She's agreed to meet you. Formally. To acknowledge what she did to you." He paused. "I'm not asking you to forgive her. I know. But I am asking you to let me be there for it." "I know that too," she said quietly. A beat of silence. "Jennifer." His voice changed. Softened slightly in the way it only did when it was just the two of them. "The photograph." She looked at it. At him. At the 20-year-old face of the boy she'd loved before she'd known what love cost. "The girls told you about it. Mary said it looked like me." "It is you." She exhaled. "I'm sorry I kept it." "Don't apologize for that," he said. "Don't apologize for that ever." Naomi came to the house 3 days later. She came with her usual rhythm, the knock, the smile, the thing she'd brought, a bag of chin-chin this time, the kind Jennifer's mother made. She came in. She sat at the kitchen table. She started talking about her week. Jennifer let her talk for exactly 4 minutes. Then she set the laptop on the table between them and pressed play on the hotel hallway footage. Naomi watched it. The room was very quiet. When it finished, Jennifer closed the laptop. "How long have you been going to him?" Jennifer asked. Naomi's expression was doing something complicated. Something between calculation and something that might, underneath it all, have been shame. And Naomi turned to go when Jennifer's voice came again. She didn't have it in her to keep this in. She wanted to understand why Naomi, her cousin, her best friend, would do that to her. Maybe she would understand after she explains herself. She would understand. "I know you went to Woo Hyun's hotel room." Naomi froze. She didn't turn back immediately. She was looking for a way out. It's a hotel. Anyone can be there. "I'm sure Woo Hyun isn't the only guest there." "Can you?" Jennifer sniffed. She looked up, holding back the tears about to betray her. She was meant to be angry, not heartbroken, screaming, not crying. But how could she? "Just tell me the truth." She held her hand, I would understand you. Naomi turned to her. She was pretty. She had always been the prettier one between the two and had heads turn whenever they entered into a room. Oh, dear Jennifer. She cooed mockingly. I don't need you to understand me. You don't get to get everything while you're the teenager who ended up with 2 babies. Her words cut Jennifer deep. Was that what she had always thought of her? Everyone loves you. My mother adored you and she ignored me. I was the one who finished college with distinction. I went to law school. I graduated law school with distinction and made a good lawyer. Yet I got no recognition for it. But you? I took care of you and your bad decisions and suffered for it. Yet even David, the love of my life. You know how much I loved him, yet you took him, toyed with him and dumped him. I turned David down. Because of you. I never liked him. I did that for you, don't you see? Now Lee Woo-hyun. I want him. He's rich and he quite fits my status. I'm sure you understand. Naomi fired. She walked away and banged the door behind her. Mary and Martha walked into the kitchen. Was that Auntie Naomi? Did she bring plantain? Jennifer stood in the kitchen for a long time. Then she went to the girls' room. She stood in the doorway and watched them sleep. Martha sprawled diagonally across her bed like a fallen star, Mary perfectly still, breathing slow and even. She thought, I did this quiet, imperfect, honest life. I built it from nothing. And it held. 1 month later, Eun Woo-hyun asked Jennifer if she would come home. Not like a demand. Not like a negotiation. He asked it the way he asked most of the things that mattered. Quietly, in a room that was just the two of them with the patience he'd spent 10 years learning. Soul? She asked. Soul, he said. Your mother is there. The Kong family, she married into them. You have family you've been separated from. And I have, he paused. I want to give the girls a home they can grow up between. Both of theirs. Jennifer thought about this for a long time. Then she said, I want to meet with your mother again. Properly this time. With you there. Already arranged, he said. She looked at him. You knew I'd say yes. I knew you'd say something conditional, he said. I had 3 contingencies prepared. For the first time in a very long time, Jennifer Williams laughed. Not the polite, functional laugh she deployed in classrooms and at school events and at Naomi's jokes that she now understood had not always been entirely kind. The real thing. The one that arrived without permission. He was watching her the way he used to in the study. Like she was the most interesting person in the room. You're ridiculous, she said. Yes, he agreed. They told the girls about Seoul on a Friday evening, with jollof rice and mochi on the table, Martha's standing request, and Mary sitting cross-legged in her chair with the considered patience of someone who had already begun running calculations. We're going to live there? Martha demanded. Between here and there, Jennifer said. We'll see what works. Does Seoul have a good school? One of the best, Woo-hyun said. Martha considered this with the gravitas of a government official weighing foreign policy. Will there be a food truck? Woo-hyun pressed his mouth together very briefly. I'll see what I can arrange. Okay, Martha said, and returned to her jollof with the air of someone who had concluded negotiations successfully. Mary looked at her father. Will we meet Halmoni? A beat. Yes, Woo-hyun said carefully. We will. Mary nodded once, as though this confirmed something she'd already determined. She picked up her fork. Then, very quietly, in a voice that was only for the table, Good. I'd like to look her in the eye. Nobody said anything. Then Martha started laughing so hard she nearly knocked over her mochi, and Jennifer covered her mouth with her hand, and Woo-hyun looked at his daughter, his quiet, ancient, terrifyingly perceptive daughter, with an expression of complete helpless pride. They flew to Seoul on a Sunday in early spring. Jennifer stood at the departure gate with a carry-on bag and 2 daughters and the very specific feeling of someone completing a sentence they'd started a decade ago and never quite finished. The airport was loud around them. Announcements, rolling luggage, the particular energy of people going somewhere. Woo-hyun appeared from the business lounge with 3 boarding passes and Martha immediately accused him of cutting the queue, which he calmly and correctly explained was not what a lounge was, and Martha told him she would need a full explanation on the plane. Mary tucked her hand into Jennifer's. Not the needy grip of a scared child, the steady, chosen gesture of a girl who had decided something. Mummy, she said. Yeah, baby. Are you happy? Jennifer looked at her. at her small, serious face, at the eyes that had seen, since birth, far more than Jennifer had ever intended to show her. She looked at Martha ahead of them, already interrogating Woo Hyun about the airplane food, already fully at home in his orbit. She looked at him, her girl's father, the man who had spent 10 years not moving on because he hadn't wanted to, the man who had found her in a mall by accident or by something older than accident. Yes, Jennifer said. I really am. Mary nodded. She squeezed her mother's hand once. Then she let go and ran to catch up with her sister. Seoul welcomed them with the particular softness of early spring, cherry blossoms just beginning, the air cool and clean, the city familiar to Jennifer in her bones in a way she tried to forget and couldn't. Her mother was at the house. They hadn't seen each other in 9 years. Her mother stood in the courtyard of the Kong family home, smaller than Jennifer remembered, softer, her hair threaded with gray, and when Jennifer walked through the gate she made a sound that Jennifer had not heard since she was small, that specific sound mothers make when something they thought was gone returns to them. They held each other for a long time. Martha, beside them, was very uncharacteristically silent. She looked at her mother and grandmother, then at Woo Hyun. She reached up and took his hand without looking at him. He held it. Mary stood a few steps back and watched. Her eyes were full, but she was smiling. Naomi, back in New York, had been having a very good 6 weeks. She had told herself the story the way she always told herself stories, cleanly, with herself at the center of the reasonable version. Jennifer had overreacted. Jennifer had always been sensitive. She had only been trying to help, and if her methods were imperfect, well, the road to good intentions and all of that. She had gone back to her life, her law firm, her carefully curated apartment, her mirror which had never once disagreed with her. Then her senior partner called her into his office on a Thursday morning. He was a measured man, 30 years in practice, not given to dramatics. He set a folder on the desk between them and looked at her over his glasses with the expression of a man who has learned to deliver bad news without embellishment. We received a formal complaint, he said, filed through the New York Bar Association. Conduct unbecoming. Defamation. Documented interference in a private family matter. He paused. The filing references CCTV footage, phone records, and a sworn statement from a Mr. Eun Woo Hyun, CEO of Eun Global Holdings. Another pause. You're aware of who that is? Naomi was aware. The complaint also references your conduct toward his partner, a Ms. Jennifer Williams, over a sustained period, including false statements made to a third party designed to damage her character and her relationship. He closed the folder. The bar takes this seriously, Naomi. We take this seriously. She lost the Harrington account that afternoon. The client had heard, the way clients always hear, through the specific efficiency of professional networks when someone's name is attached to the words bar complaint and Eun Global in the same sentence. She lost 2 more accounts by the end of the week. The apartment, the sleek, curated, expensive apartment she had always considered evidence of her arrival, suddenly felt like a stage set with no audience. She sat in it on a Friday night with her phone face down on the coffee table, because there was no one to call who didn't already know, and the ones who didn't know yet were the ones she most dreaded telling. She had built her identity on being the successful one, the Yale graduate, the lawyer, the cousin who had her life together while Jennifer raised 2 children alone on a teacher's salary. She had told herself for years that she pitied Jennifer. She understood now, sitting in the silence of her expensive apartment with a bar complaint filed against her name, that pity had never been the correct word for what she felt. Envy was closer. Envy of the way people loved Jennifer without being managed into it. Envy of the way Woo Hyun had looked at her across a mall like she was the only fixed point in a moving world. Envy of something Naomi had never been given and had never learned to grow. She picked up her phone. She did not call Jennifer. She knew better than that, and the letter from the law firm, precise and brief and devastating in its restraint, had made the boundaries unmistakable. She called her mother instead. Auntie Grace, who had taken Jennifer in when she had nowhere to go, who had housed her and fed her and loved her like a second daughter. Auntie Grace, who picked up the phone and listened to Naomi's careful, self-edited version of events for approximately 4 minutes before saying, in a voice Naomi had not heard since childhood, "You did what?" The call lasted 47 minutes. Naomi did not speak for most of it. When it ended, she sat in the silence of her apartment and looked at the version of herself she had been constructing for years. The capable one, the impressive one, the one who deserved better than the life she had, and she saw, for the first time without the flattering light she'd always kept on it, what it actually looked like. Mrs. Oon met Jennifer formally 1 month after their return to Seoul. It was not a warm meeting, but it was an honest one. Mrs. Oon said the words Jennifer had not let herself need but had, without knowing it, been carrying for 10 years. I was wrong. What I did was wrong. She did not say it easily. She said it the way people say things that cost them something. Jennifer looked at the woman across the table. The woman who had handed her an envelope and told her to disappear. The woman who had believed that a family's name was worth more than a child's. Thank you, Jennifer said, for saying that. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a door left open. Woo Hyun, beside her, held her hand under the table where no one could see. On a Tuesday evening 3 months after their return, Jennifer came home from a curriculum meeting to find the lights low in the living room and her daughters inexplicably, suspiciously, already bathed and in their pajamas. Mary was on the sofa reading. Martha was sitting on the kitchen counter eating a tangerine with the calculated innocence of someone who had been removed from whatever she was just doing approximately 45 seconds ago. Woo Hyun was cooking. He was standing at the stove in a shirt with the sleeves rolled up and an apron that Martha had clearly decorated with stickers, and he was cooking jollof rice. Their jollof rice, not correctly, not yet, but trying in the way that meant he'd been watching and paying attention and refusing to admit he needed help with any of it. Jennifer stood in the doorway. He turned. Sit down, he said. It's almost ready. You're burning the bottom, she said. I am not. You are. You need to turn it down. Jennifer. Woo Hyun. She crossed to him. She adjusted the flame. She took the spoon from his hand and stirred once, checked the consistency and handed it back. There. He looked at her. She looked up at him. Martha, on the counter, had stopped eating her tangerine. Mary had set down her book. Ask her, Martha stage whispered. Martha, Woo Hyun said without looking away from Jennifer. You've been waiting for, like, forever, Martha continued, with the unstoppable momentum of a child who has decided something is happening now. Just ask her. Martha. Oh my God, Martha said, with the exasperation of a person who has been patient about this for months, which, knowing Martha, was accurate. Jennifer looked between him and her daughters and the ridiculous decorated apron and the jollof rice that was, admittedly, starting to smell correct. Were you planning something? She asked him. He exhaled through his nose. He reached into the apron pocket, which Martha had clearly known about, and took out a small box. I was planning it better than this, he said. Jennifer looked at the box. Then she looked at her daughters. Martha was clutching her tangerine with both hands and vibrating slightly. Mary was perfectly still, watching with enormous eyes that were very quietly filling up. She looked at him. 10 years ago in a study in Seoul, a boy had looked at her like she was the most interesting thing in the room. She had spent a decade trying to unknow that look. She had never managed it. Not once. I'm not good at slow, she said. I know, he said. I know that about you. And I'm not moving back into your house until I'm ready. I'm not asking you to. And the girls need to. Jennifer. He opened the box. Just, look. She looked. It was not large. It was not ostentatious. It was exactly the kind of thing she would have chosen herself. Simple, specific, unmistakably chosen. Not purchased from a display case by someone's assistant. Chosen. Yes, she said. Martha fell off the counter. She was fine. She bounced up immediately and announced that she'd meant to do that. Mary was crying in the quiet, deliberate way she did everything. Woo Hyun put the ring on Jennifer's hand and Jennifer grabbed him by the collar of his sticker-decorated apron and kissed him, and Martha recovered enough from her fall to make an extremely loud noise of celebration, and the jollof rice on the stove did, briefly, begin to burn. Nobody minded. If you made it all the way here, thank you. Genuinely. You stayed through every twist, every tear, every scheme Mary and Martha cooked up in their bedroom, and you deserve to know. You are exactly the viewer we make these stories for. Drop a comment and tell us what hit you hardest. Was it the hospital scene? Was it Mary saying, I knew? Was it Martha falling off the counter at the end? We need to know. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell. New stories drop regularly and they only get better. Share this one with someone who needs a story that makes them feel something.